Good afternoon, folks. Here's a little update on my Fazer project. A lot has been going on over the last while, as is pretty obvious, I would hope. Yeah, just mainly just rebuilding, going through the bike. It's been about 2 months since I took the last video of this, and at the time it was just an array of parts just all laid out, ready to go back in the bike. But a lot has been done, as you can see. The bike is pretty much mechanically back together. Everything, there was a few teething issues, a few kind of challenges, a few trials and tribulations. Nothing really kind of comes to mind. At one point I thought the bike might have been wired wrong. I couldn't get spark for love nor money. For some reason it just came back to life. I was exchanging the CTIs, I was exchanging leads, absolutely nothing worked. So I got a good test light, something I had been promising myself for years, and I just managed to get it. I just disconnected something. We were just a couple of us were there, myself and a buddy. We just kept after just the basics, and at one point he gave some contacts, I rubbed some light sandpaper, and that's it. The bike fired and hasn't missed since. It's absolutely perfect. Cooling system, it's all back together, filled, and heating and cooling is normal. Fan is cutting in, cutting out. Brakes are all back together. The front calipers are rebuilt. The master cylinder is rebuilt. I just could not get them to bleed. No matter what I did, I put about 2 hours into trying to get them to bleed. The pads hadn't moved, and you could just see that the fluid I was putting in was just coming straight back out. I don't know why. So I have just decided I'm going to get a brake bleeder, since that's something that's been on my list as well. Every guard should have that. The back caliper, did a nice little paint job on that. Give a look at that. Again, it was one of those parts on these bikes that you just can't get. They're very, very difficult to get. This is like the third or fourth one that I've gotten. It was the least bad. It still needed to be rebuilt. It was also very crusty. So I gave it a bit of a rub down with some of my beloved gold hammerite, smooth gold aerosol hammerite. I think it looks pretty nifty. So that did bleed up pretty well, thank God. So that the back brakes are finalized, which is absolutely brilliant. Chain sprockets on the other side, new chain sprockets. You know what they look like. I managed to, I hadn't actually got the tail, the swing arm buttoned up, so it was all just kind of draped on there. So the chain, I actually put the chain on. I don't know why I did this, but I actually linked up the chain on the bench for convenience's sake, and I just slipped it on. I just popped off the swing arm and popped the chain on over it, and then I stuck back on the swing arm, and I finalized all the torquing then of the linkage and all that stuff. And I went through the side stand and center stand and just buttoned everything up completely correctly, and just make sure that everything was present and correct, which it now is, thankfully. Going through it, the carbs were an absolute ball ache trying to get them on my own. It was an absolute, Jesus, I just was wrestling. My arms, my hands, my thumbs were just killing me after it, just trying to finagle the whole thing into place. I tried everything. I tried even throwing on the heater in here to kind of get the rubber to soften it. Just nothing worked. It was just an absolute nightmare. Thankfully, when I got all the cars back on, they were I gave them to a guy advertising as a carburetor expert who does things like ultrasonic cleaning and that. So I had cleaned them up fairly thoroughly, and they were pretty clean. I went through them all. He just gave them the once over for a bit of peace of mind. He reset all he put everything back to the factory settings. I know I could have probably have done that, but I just wanted somebody who was a bit more adept with the carburetors to give it a look over, which he did. So it fired, absolutely no problems at all. Going through it, anything else to report? So just today's little task was to get that little clip. If you look inside there, there's a clip that holds on the bottom of that cover. I've riveted that into place, riveted and glued it. And the little tab itself came off the donor bike. just cut it off there, and thankfully it's still all lined up correctly, even though it was kind of sat down on top of its original locating strap. There's a strap that goes left to right that those tabs ride on. Thankfully it's still all lined up, despite the fact that it's just kind of riveted down on top of it, riveted and glued. Jesus, I don't know what else to say. All the electrics went back into place. Thankfully, even though it came from a later donor bike, the donor bike over there, the loom, once I did my looking over originally, it all seemed to work out just fine. Everything seemed to terminate in exactly the same way with almost no differences. Everything on the bike is working, thank God. The brake lights, tail lights, indicators. It was a bit of a nightmare as well. It was my first time taking, the two switch gears were just an absolute hodgepodge of two bikes. It was a real ordeal to get them all apart, and they really are. This is from the donor, but like, at least now this bike now has hazards, which is a feature I like on bikes. Like for example, that was broken off from the original bike. The casings are from the original, the casings are from the donor bike. That's from the original bike. All of the innards as well are from are original to the bike, I should say. So yeah, thankfully the speedo was broken, so I got the speedo sensor from the donor bike. That all works out. So it's reading mileage when you spin the engine, or when you spin the front wheel by hand. What else? I don't know. I think everything is just been pretty much assembled at this point. The light obviously doesn't hang there. It actually mounts into the back of the fairings. But as you can just see, it's hanging there in a tie wrap just for testing purposes. Brakes are working out, clutch is working out, back brakes, the gear, the shifters, or the silencer. That is not the final silencer. That's off the donor bike, just put on there for testing purposes, just so that we don't get the guards calling to us. The original one from the bike is there, and it just needs a good thorough scrub up, get some stainless polish, and get a bit of PJ1 at the black section of the front of the pipe. All the downpipes were an absolute nightmare to get into place. I don't know if it's because it's kind of a budget kind of a bike, or maybe they've been moving and heaving left and right over the years with heat cycles and what have you. But Jesus, it took two of us to get the downpipes into place. And yeah, with the fresh gaskets, it wasn't, of course, a help the fact that I hadn't taken out all the original gaskets. That wasn't exactly helpful to the cause, but we figured that out, and thankfully we managed to get that mounted up. There's no leaks. We've checked all the ports for leaks, and there's no problem. I can't really think of anything else. Everything plugged up fine. The pillion pegs and the rear sets are not the ones also going on the bike. They're not going to stay. They're just there for just mocking it all up. There is a full fresh set of aluminium bits and pieces, including the I wasn't happy with the top yoke either. It's a bit crusty, so I managed to get them blasted by a friend of mine. He used some kind of glass, some glass media or something. He was telling me about some special glass media, which gave a beautiful finish. So what I've done is, I don't have any to show you, but I have taken a couple of them and I have polished them using a scotch wheel on the pillar drill, and they look brilliant. It's a very nice finish. So when I go to paint the bodywork, all of the aluminium hardware is going to be polished, or not polished, but they're going to be more or less shined up, for want of a better word, and then lacquered, including the top yoke. So that will be kind of that's the last kind of cosmetic few bits and pieces that will hopefully get done in the near future. The big major remaining task at this point is, there's my beloved PJ1, is to get the body work. This is the pile of body work that needs to be done. It's obviously it's January now, it's 30 days of January, and all of it has been partially prepped for a very long time. I was hoping to originally get it before the the winter kind of really kicked in, but the temperatures have been so cold. I kind of lost my nerve and kind of came to the concept of painting, even though all the equipment and materials are now here. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Bodywork is the last thing. I suppose you wouldn't believe me if I just told you that it was running, so I'll give it a quick start and you can tell me what you think. She's a little warm already, but we've warmed her right up, and she heats and cools, as I said, and she does clear it completely. That's just a bit of steam now. The temperatures at the moment are quite low. But she sounds good and strong, very energetic, born to run. She is. All the electric, she lets everything working, so quite satisfying. It's coming into the end of the project now, the quite satisfying end of things. But look, there she is. I think she's coming along quite nicely. All these side covers as well, these ones here, they're going to be, I think I'm going to go body black with those as well. They're pretty crusty, but I think it could be a nice little feature as well. Should modernize it a bit more. But listen, thanks for hanging tough. Hopefully it won't be too much longer before you see this beast on the road. I'm looking forward to getting it off my bench. I have been cribbing, I've been beating that drum for months at this point. But look, I think it's getting there, and I think it's nearly, it's in danger of being done pretty soon. So wish me luck, and take care, folks, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.